Tonight, spotlight on big tech.
Aggressive enforcement of our anti-monopoly laws and our merger laws is critical.
Congress pushing a number of bills aimed at the Internet's corporate gatekeepers.
Here's the question. Do we think House Democrats want to stop big tech censorship of Republicans?
Plus, the plight of Christians in the Arab world.
There was a lot of hope, and I was hopeful.
10 years after the Arab Spring rocked the Middle East.
And a Democrat remembers the longest-serving Republican senator from Virginia.
John Warner is a reminder of what we can do when we come together as one nation.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Angry parents give a school board a failing grade over its proposed curriculum that's now stirring controversy. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
Good evening. I'm Jenna Browder. Tonight, the firestorm over public education is spilling into the mainstream after a recused school board meeting in Virginia and the suburbs of Washington, D.C.
It ended in 2 arrests last night after the board abruptly halted public comment on gender policy, a heated topic that's making Loudoun County schools the latest hotspot in the culture wars. More than 300 people attended the meeting, many to oppose a plan that would require teachers to use a child's preferred gender pronouns. The district's policies have been a lightning rod for months now, landing Loudoun County schools in the national spotlight.
Hi, I'm back here today, as a proud screaming parent of a young transgender son in our Loudoun County school. Today, instead of focusing on the hate that seems to be dripping off the followers of Jesus in this room, and from their kids in our schools, I wanted to take the time. I can wait.
The reality is LCPS, it's not parent-led education, it's government-forced indoctrination.
Several meetings have been marked by explosive exchanges over the curriculum, which critics say employs what's called critical race theory. At one meeting earlier this year, parents shocked the school board by reading aloud sexually explicit passages from the required high school reading list. An effort is underway to recall several school board members. Last night's meeting was the last of the academic calendar year.
Meanwhile, at the Supreme Court today, in a near unanimous decision, the justices ruled in favor of a student punished by her school for using expletives in a Snapchat. The 8-1 High Court pointing to the First Amendment and freedom of speech. They say schools cannot enforce their rules outside of school grounds. Therefore, the Pennsylvania School District violated the First Amendment when it punished a cheerleader for using vulgar language on the digital app.
To the humanitarian crisis at the border, after resisting calls to visit the southern border amid a surge of migrants, the vice president is set to make the trip there this week. Vice President Kamala Harris, tasked by President Biden to deal with the crisis, will go to El Paso, Texas on Friday. It follows the White House announcement allowing more migrants to enter the United States to make asylum claims. Homeland Security is now considering migrants whose cases were terminated under a Trump-era program that sent asylum seekers back to Mexico for pending cases.
Tonight, tensions between Russia and the West are spilling over into live fire on the high seas. Warning shots fired from a Russian warship Wednesday against a British destroyer amount to the first live ammo confrontation between Russia and a NATO warship since the Cold War. According to the Russian military, a Russian warplane also dropped bombs, all to deter a Royal Navy ship's passage in the Black Sea near Crimea. The British Ministry of Defense denied being fired upon, adding that the HMS Defender was sailing through Ukrainian waters in accordance with international law. And back here in Washington, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are poring over a package of bills aimed at taking away power from big tech.
That's right, Jenna. They're debating 6 bills, all in committee now before they get their day in the full House. As CBN White House correspondent Eric Phillips reports, so far it's proving to be a controversial process every step of the way.
The bills are in the House Judiciary Committee going through what's known as markup. That's the process where the bills are debated, amended, and rewritten. A process that is challenging because while everyone recognizes there is a problem, some feel the legislation goes too far, while others say it's not enough. The 6 bills take aim at some of the biggest names in corporate America: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Google. They range in scope from increasing fees companies must pay when filing for a merger to barring a business from merging with a competitor.
Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google are gatekeepers to the online economy. They bury or buy rivals and abuse their monopoly power, conduct that is harmful to consumers, competition, innovation, and our democracy.
Big tech censors conservatives. These bills don't fix that problem. They make it worse. They don't break up big tech. They don't stop censorship.
Who elected you and put you in charge of what the media are allowed to report and what the American people are allowed to hear?
These issues are not new. They've sparked fire at Capitol Hill hearings for months.
Let me be clear. We approach our work without political bias, full stop. To do otherwise would be contrary to both our business interests and our mission.
Some complain this latest effort going through committee creates a partnership that is powerful, but in the wrong way.
Overall, the power this gives to the FTC, big tech working together with big government, doesn't address the issue of breaking these companies up.
Lawmakers are itching to act, even as big tech companies have been the subject of lawsuits. For example, 48 states filed an antitrust lawsuit against Facebook, and the FTC did the same, saying the social media giant needs to be broken up.
Facebook argues that consumers are free to choose an alternative if they're not happy with Facebook. I think that's not really accurate. So, of course, you can go to another social network, but the power that economists call network effects, the fact that all of our friends are on Facebook, makes it really difficult to choose an alternative.
Tech giants are pushing back hard against these bills. They're arguing that the proposed legislation would require them to break up or stop offering services that customers have come to demand. The companies also cautioned that the proposals could harm the U.S. economy, just as the country is rebounding from the COVID-19 pandemic. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Joining us now is Chris Lewis, President and CEO of Public Knowledge. Chris, always great to see you. These bills, as Eric just pointed out in his package, are aimed at the gatekeepers of the internet. Chris, how legitimate is the concern that the government, in conjunction with these companies, could have too much power over the censorship of certain content and voices online, and particularly when it comes to those who say they've been slighted, like conservatives?
Right. Well, while I understand the concern of the government determining what is said online, I think it's evident from the fact that the big tech companies are opposing this package that that is not the case. Here the government is looking to rein in the power of big tech by making sure that there is competition in the marketplace and that the antitrust agencies have the tools at their disposal to protect that competition. So when users don't like the practices of a digital platform, they have competitors that they can go to, and they have choices in the marketplace.
Can anything be done, Chris, to better regulate censorship? Is it really a good idea to put the government in charge of watching the watchers?
Well, someone's got to be in charge of watching big tech, and certainly the government, with an expert agency, with agencies with authority, power, and resources, can and should, I believe, take a strong role in doing that. Now, dealing with censorship is a challenging thing because you don't want government, or at least we don't want government of public knowledge, determining what is said and what is not said online, or certainly not from a level of one piece of content to another piece of content. So we need rules and oversight at agencies, and preferably we would call for a digital regulator. But we certainly need the tools in this bill, in this package of bills, to give the antitrust agencies power to at least preserve competition in the marketplace, which gives consumers power to choose which platforms they use.
Chris, you keep talking about competition. I wonder, though, how much does this effort dive into the sheer power behind corporate giants like Facebook, Apple, and Google? Are any of these bills aimed at breaking up big tech monopolies?
Yes. So in this package, there's a bill that proposes creating a higher standard for those big tech platforms to merge with smaller competitors, so that preserves competitors in the marketplace. There's promotion of interoperability and non-discrimination rules, so that they can't self-preference their own content, self-preference their own tools that ride on the platform. And there's a bill that actually gives more tools to the antitrust authorities to break up a company if they can make the case to the courts that that is necessary. So these are all in this package of bills.
Chris, if you were advising lawmakers there on Capitol Hill, both on the right and on the left, how would you suggest that they tackle if you will, the perfect piece of legislation that might bridge the bipartisan divide?
Well, I think the bad news is that I don't think there is a perfect piece of legislation. I think that's why you see a package of 5 or 6 bills here, and there may be more to come in the future. The good news is that this package does have bipartisan support, led by Chairman Cicilline, Ranking Member Buck, and other members of both parties. So there's bipartisan opposition, bipartisan support, and that usually means that at least we're headed in the right direction here in looking at some consensus solutions.
All right, Chris Lewis, President and CEO of Public Knowledge. We appreciate you joining us this evening. It's great to get your insights, and we'll continue to watch this, and I hope you'll come back and join us again.
Thank you.
And coming up, a new focus on the once bipartisan HYDE Amendment, blocking federal funding for abortions.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire. Monday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Thursday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back. A pro-life advocacy group is targeting 8 Democratic lawmakers over their stance on abortion with a 6-figure digital ad campaign.
Now they want to overturn decades of bipartisan consensus that taxpayers shouldn't foot the bill for abortions. That's right.
The ads run by the Susan B. Anthony list are aimed at vulnerable Democrats running for election. They coincide with a new push for the return of the HYDE Amendment, restricting taxpayer dollars from funding abortions. In a letter to Congress from 22 state attorneys general, Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall writes, the decisions to reject the HYDE Amendment is an affront to state sovereignty.
And Attorney General Marshall joins us now. Thank you for being with us, sir. It's great to have you tonight. So it wasn't long ago that this issue really had broad support from both sides of the aisle. Why is the HYDE Amendment now off the table for Democrats?
I think what we clearly are seeing is that the Democrats are playing politics with the lives of unborn children. This was an issue that when the HYDE Amendment was first adopted in 1976 had true bipartisan support. President Biden was clearly during his time in the Senate very supportive of the idea that if you opposed abortion, you had an absolute right not to have your taxpayer funds spent to fund abortions on demand. And now we've seen a clear flip-flop where Democrats are playing politics with now the lives of 2.5 million children that have been saved since the HYDE Amendment's been adopted.
You know, in many ways, the HYDE Amendment was never really seen as the perfect solution for taxpayers who oppose abortions. Many complained it was just a ledger line fix. Still, can you talk about how rejecting the HYDE Amendment for many Christians and social conservatives is a violation of freedom of conscience?
Well, it absolutely is. You know, for example, when we have an opposition to the way that our tax money is spent in our states, we can go to another state where we have the opportunity to be able to exercise our clear thoughts about how government should operate and how our tax dollars should be spent by leaving that location, which is doing it the wrong way. Here, when the federal government is dictating what the policy should be, there's no American that can avoid the application of their tax dollars being spent on abortions if, in fact, the HYDE Amendment is removed. I mean, this is something not only that's fiscally responsible, but more importantly, you know, we've seen the clear saving of lives of children now, almost 60,000 a year. If you look at where the data currently is, compared to before the HYDE Amendment, we lost the lives of almost 300,000 children between 1973 and 1980.
How did you put together this coalition of states attorneys general?
I think our colleagues and the 21 that signed the letters with us are very much supportive of what we can do to protect life, and understanding that this was an issue that not only made sense for our federal budget, but also was making a difference in our own communities. The 22 attorneys general who have come together are making a very principled statement about what the policy of the federal government should be, and also challenging Democrats to be able to explain why suddenly this needs to change. Because the reality is, this is all about politics. This is about this administration bowing to the far left and changing what was a valid exercise of federal authority and allowing those like me who don't believe their tax dollars should be spent to fund abortions to be able to know that that's not where that's going.
Are you hopeful that the HYDE Amendment will be returned to the federal budget under this current administration? And if, what would need to happen to make that a reality?
I think we're very hopeful. I think there's clear opportunity for bipartisan support to be able to put it back in. We believe very strongly that the Republican leadership in both the House and the Senate can stand strong to make sure this is included as a rider to the current amendment process. But what we also know is that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are going to do everything they can to keep this amendment removed. And it's the value of the filibuster, it's the value of the Republicans being able to stay together that ultimately is going to allow what we believe should take place and what's been going on since 1980, and that's to ensure that all Americans can have clear understanding that their funding through taxes are not being spent to pay for abortions.
I'd love to get you to weigh in on this. You know, the debate over abortion is often framed for people on the left as women's reproductive rights and choice. But for those on the right, it's about the 62 million lives that have been taken since Roe v. Wade was enacted and called legalized abortion. I wonder, you know, many say that our laws are a reflection of our society. And given that you uphold the laws in the state of Alabama, I wonder if I can get you to weigh in on what abortion and legalized abortion means as a statement for our society.
I think it's a testament to who we are as a people, that if we can't stand for life, then where could we truly be advocates for? And if you look at where the American populace is on this subject, while there may be more those that believe in pro-choice than pro-life generally, when we ask specifically the question of whether or not they believe that their tax dollars should be spent for paying for abortions, 58% of Americans, that's Republicans, Democrats, and independents, believe that that's an improper process to allow for federal funding to go for that purpose. A majority of Republicans, a majority of independents, and even many Democrats support this effort. And so for this amendment to be able to stay in place, we believe that there's a reflection of where society is right now. And although I clearly oppose abortion as a practice, believe that Roe versus Wade was wrongfully decided, this is one that both Republicans and Democrats can get behind to ensure that those that President Biden even said in 1994 in a letter, that if you oppose abortion, you should be assured that the government will not compel your tax funds to be paid for that purpose. Okay. And we're simply asking for that to be implemented here.
All right. About Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall, thank you so much. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Well, the Federal Reserve Chairman is pointing to an improving economy as evidence that trillions of dollars spent by the Fed is working. This as the nation begins to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Jerome Powell testified before Congress Tuesday that the monetary spigot would stay open with the rising inflation, which he called transitory.
Widespread vaccinations have joined unprecedented monetary and fiscal policy actions in providing strong support for the recovery. We at the Fed will do everything we can to support the economy for as long as it takes to complete the recovery.
And we'll be back right after the break.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Wednesday at 3 on the CBN News Channel.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
It's been 10 years since the Arab Spring rocked the Middle East and North Africa. So has anything really changed?
Another question, has life for Christians and other minority communities at all improved? Senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon takes a look.
There's no question the Arab Spring ushered in some bright spots, but it also created a deadly vacuum for Christians and other minorities. From Tunisia to Egypt to Syria, Americans watched with hopeful eyes as fed-up citizens protested oppressive governments.
What we saw was people, tired of corruption, people of limited rights, limited opportunity, economic deprivation. So they took to the streets, but freedom was a major component of that.
The protests sparked new debates over religious freedom. A number of countries rewrote their constitutions, but most of their brutal laws remained.
In Egypt, we've seen Shias, Quranists, Christians prosecuted under blasphemy laws.
And today, while Egypt is allowing the construction of churches, Saudi Arabia is revising its textbooks, and Sudan has repealed its apostasy law, the Arab Spring ushered in a terrifying era for Christians.
In 2014, ISIS fighters massacred a group of 21 Coptic Christian expatriate workers on a beach in Libya, broadcasting the horrific footage for all to see.
ISIS launched a genocidal campaign against Yazidis, Christians, and Shia Muslims in Iraq as the government turned a blind eye. Violence against Coptic Christians in Egypt intensified. And across the region, blasphemy laws actually expanded, criminalizing the worship of minorities. At a recent hearing, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom discussed how America can encourage meaningful change. Panelists suggested imposing sanctions on persecutors, tying strings to the billions of tax dollars the region gets in U.S. assistance, and having U.S. officials meet with opposition leaders, along with heads of state, to highlight the importance of diversity. Bashir says privately, countries often acknowledge the benefits of religious freedom, but maintain the status quo to appease extremists.
At some point, you have to move it forward and isolate those fringe elements who are making those threats. and move forward, come into this 21st century.
Religious freedom advocates agree the Trump administration raised the profile of international religious freedom. Now they're anxious to see President Biden's take on this important tenet of American diplomacy. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Still ahead, remembering the life of John Warner, the senator who brought together both sides of the aisle. Next.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living Tuesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man, come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Finally tonight, remembering one of Washington's longest-serving lawmakers. Late Republican Senator John Warner earned 30 years of support from voters across the political spectrum before passing away at the age of 94.
And today, President Biden remembered Warner, his friend and former colleague, who was also Virginia's second longest-serving Republican senator.
John Warner is a reminder of what we can do when we come together as one nation.
The president also described him as a man of deep commitment to God and country. The funeral took place at the Washington National Cathedral, where Warner was also baptized. Jenna, if I remember correctly, he was also a war hero and at one point married to actress Elizabeth Taylor.
Wow, I didn't know that. Part of the greatest generation and a life certainly well lived.
Absolutely.
All right, have a great evening, everybody.
See you tomorrow.